everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mira. I run Demand Gen here at Phil. We're very happy to have you here with us today. I'm excited to be joined by my colleagues, Nicole and Catherine, who will be presenting today's conversation about improving brand outcomes with a digital hub. Before we dive into the conversation, just going to share a few housekeeping items. First of all, we would love for this to be an interactive discussion where we have your questions throughout the conversation. So as you have questions come up, please put them in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer them in real time, as well as at the end, we'll save time for Q&A session. In addition, we'll also run polls and would love to get your feedback throughout, so we'll cue you when it's time to answer those. Without further ado, I will pass it over to Catherine to kick us off.
Hi, my name is Catherine. Oop, the slides aren't advancing. There we go. My name is Catherine Woodhill. I lead marketing here at Phil. I've been in sales and marketing for 20 years now, really focusing on both consumer as well as enterprise technology products. And I'm really excited to be able to bring both of those expertise together at Phil, where we're really focused on ensuring the best patient experience while putting together a technology that is able to maximize the number of covered dispenses that any given brand has, while also maximizing the refill adherence. I think that, through the course of our conversation today, we'll focus on mostly industry level topics, but then we'll dig really into how a digital hub solution like Phil and a couple of others on the market can really help to drive outcomes for your brand. Also like to welcome Nicole.
Hi, thank you so much, Catherine. My name is Nicole Graken. I am the VP of Commercialization here at Phil. I joined the team in December to oversee client success and provider engagement initiatives. Prior to joining, 20 years of pharma experience. Started my career on the agency side, supporting pharmaceutical manufacturers with HCP campaigns, market access tactics, and Salesforce training. And then the last 8 years were spent with Cover My Meds on the pharma team there. Excited to be with you all today.
Great. So, today we are going to be focused on a number of different topics, starting really at that industry level and unpacking some of the challenges that you guys are facing every day from an access and affordability perspective. Channel management, comparing a couple of the models that branded retail and specialty-lite drugs are facing, as well as kind of what the best option is for channel management. We'll talk about what a digital hub is, and then those key strategies for optimizing patient, provider, and brand outcomes. We'll do a quick case study on how we were able to improve coverage for an ophthalmology brand. And, we'll close with a recap and some resources for you. As Mira mentioned, the goal is really to make this an interactive session. So welcome you to use that Q&A button as well as the chat function within the webinar platform. Throughout, we are most interesting when we're not just spouting out information, but engaging with you guys and making sure that this is something that you guys will find valuable. So really hope to hear from you throughout the session today. We'll go ahead and kick off. While these stats do look pretty jarring, I don't think any of them are going to be a surprise for anyone on the call today. There are over 94 million prescriptions that are abandoned on a yearly basis as out-of-pocket costs grow. And that's really a challenge for each one of you in terms of how you can help to support patients getting on the therapies that they need. Additionally, 80% of HCPs don't prescribe certain medications due to utilization management barriers. And I know that we're going to talk through some of the programs that you're putting in place and some of the things that you guys are doing in order to support your HCPs and your patients when it comes to your branded therapies. But this is something that all of us are living day to day, and we'll talk through some solutions that can help with making it easier for HCPs to actually prescribe medications. Additionally, some more of those stats that you guys kind of know, but really help to ground our conversation today. In terms of the current state of patient support services, you guys are spending $5 billion annually on patient supports programs. So programs that are designed to really make sure that patients are able to access the medications that you guys are bringing to market. But only 60% or 60% of HCPs report that they don't really understand what those programs are. So your field teams have a lot of things that they need to do, in terms of communicating the benefits of the therapy to their practices, as well as, communicating patient support services and various programs that you've put in place in order to support patients getting on therapy. But even with all of those things that the field is doing and all of the various communications that you're doing, only 3% of patients actually wind up enrolling and using those manufacturer programs. So when you think about spending $5 billion and then 3% of patients actually getting access to those programs, means that the ROI can be pretty tricky for a lot of these programs. So we want to talk through some solutions in terms of how to get better utilization of those support programs, as well as how to help, improve the gross to net overall on various branded retail drugs, as we go through the presentation today. To start off, there's a poll that just popped up in front of you. We want to find of these options, what is the biggest challenge that your brands are facing in 2024? Is it access, coverage, gross to net, or all of the above? And we'll go ahead and take just a minute to let you guys answer that question. We hear from talking to brands every day that these are all challenges that you're facing, but we're curious, what is the one that's the biggest concern for you this year? So it looks like kind of across the board, pretty evenly split. 44% of you say that these are all big challenges that you are facing in 2024, and there's no surprise there, especially with the data that we just ran through. But 22% of you say that access is the biggest challenge that you're facing, with coverage and gross to net really, really tied there. Nicole, any thoughts from you here?
No, I don't think anything's surprising here. I mean, if it were me, it would have probably been all of the above, because I feel like these are all important problems to solve for.
Great. So today, all of you on the call have specialty-lite or branded retail therapies that you have responsibility for. And when you think about those types of drugs, the most common channel and the most common way that patients access your therapy is via retail pharmacies. Retail pharmacies are, really the traditional way that patients get access to drugs of this price point. But when you think about it, the kind of traditional model of your doctor writes you a paper script, you walk into the pharmacy on the corner and hand it to the pharmacist, and 15 minutes later, you walk out with that medication in hand. Those days are really behind us, and there are a lot of challenges that patients are facing now with retail pharmacies, as well as, challenges that manufacturers are facing, particularly as we think about the landscape that those retail pharmacies are in right now. So the biggest challenge that we hear from manufacturers as it comes to retail pharmacies is that, they are not likely to do the utilization management work necessary in order to get a covered dispense. So if a prior authorization is required, oftentimes, they will try to switch to a generic or something that's not going to have those utilization management hurdles, reaching back out to the prescriber. Or they will go ahead and hit that uncovered coupon and really hit your gross to net by getting an uncovered dispense as opposed to going through the process of getting that script covered. From a patient perspective, one, if they do go ahead and hit that uncovered coupon, oftentimes that's a much higher copay than it would have been if it had been a covered dispense. So from a patient perspective, it's a challenge. Additionally, from a patient perspective, the pharmacies aren't stocking a lot of these medications. So they go in, the drug isn't there, they have to, go home and then come back a week later once they've ordered the medication. And it can be a big challenge as well. So while retail pharmacies do have an important place in our, overarching healthcare, channel and medication access channel, we do find that for branded retail and specialty light medications that they have a lot of limitations. I don't know, Nicole, any other thoughts on retail pharmacies from your perspective?
No, not necessarily. I feel like for the longest time it was the norm, but we're seeing trends start to shift in other directions, which is kind of where we come in.
Yeah, and one of those directions over the past several years that we have seen things shift, and really picked up through COVID, but has continued to pick up even since then is with digital pharmacies. And this is really, a technology-driven direct-to-consumer fulfillment model that from a patient experience perspective can have a pretty good experience where the prescriber sends a script and a few days later it does show up for the patient. Again, the challenges with digital pharmacies tend to come back to those covered dispenses and really the brand experience with that digital pharmacy. So they, tend to have lower reimbursement model rates as well as, a lower likelihood of actually doing the prior authorization. We can go ahead and talk about some alternatives unless, Nicole, there's anything else you wanted to dig in here.
No, I don't think so, Catherine.
Great. So the alternative that we have come up with at Phil is what we call a digital hub. And this is a hub that is designed specifically for branded retail and specialty light drugs. So drugs that have a lower WAC price than your true specialty. They don't tend to have a payer mandated pharmacy, but they do have those utilization management hurdles that make it difficult to just walk into the pharmacy on the corner and pick it up and get a covered dispense. Digital hubs really offer a patient-centric, cost-effective channel for retail and specialty light brands and are often used as an adjunct to your retail channel, where a certain percentage of your scripts come through that digital hub in order to really focus on driving patient experience as well as driving covered dispenses and refill adherence. Digital hubs such as Phil tend to have about 90% of patients actually opting into the hub and confirming their information in order to get the dispense. You see about 2 times as many covered dispenses, as well as about 3 times higher refill adherence. All right, I'll hand it off to Nicole here.
Thank you so much, Catherine. So field and HCP enablement, patient education, and peer response are really 3 key strategies we found to be most impactful at driving adoption of a digital hub. And we're going to dig into these on the coming slides, but at a very high level, field and HCP enablement means training the field, including sales leadership, so they can effectively train HCPs and office staff on the benefits of a digital hub. So if you think about it, the field team must consistently sell the benefits of the hub in order to drive HCP adoption and engagement. Patient enrollments drive overall pull through. So educating patients on how and why to enroll in your digital hub is going to be critical to program success. And finally, understanding how payers are responding to your product helps inform market access discussions with plans and field team interactions with HCPs. So if we go ahead and click over to the next slide, we'll start with field and HCP enablement. So what we're hearing is that 79% of HCPs want more information about patient support services from field reps, including cost and coverage information. So that really kind of lends itself to this idea of a total office call. So reps need to go in and make sure they're selling the HCP on the benefits of the drug, and then additionally, educating HCPs and office staff on the benefits of sending scripts to a digital hub to help patients access the brand. So things that make a digital hub appealing for a provider could be a solution that is in workflow, something that they're familiar with. The option to have prior authorization support is incredibly helpful with workflow processes. For the patient, something that's really easy in terms of enrollment to unlock a better out-of-pocket price, and something that ultimately can help improve adherence. So thinking about digital hubs that offer home delivery and enrollment in auto refills to kind of help with adherence. So before you educate HCPs, you also need to educate the field team. So again, we see this working best as kind of a top-down approach, starting with sales leaderships and managers, because we want to make sure that we're getting their buy-in before we then go ahead and train the reps. This way, everybody is going to be aligned and accountable for the program's success, which is key. And when it comes to training, we feel like it's sometimes a more is more approach, right? Think about pre-launch training opportunities to kind of set the table and get everybody speaking the same language. Re-engage with additional training at the launch of a digital hub to make sure everybody's feeling confident and empowered about the conversations they're going to be having with their providers. And then finally offering post-launch office hours to kind of hear what's happening in the field so we could work together to remove barriers for the field team and their providers. Other things that we think work really well to help support the reps is a mix of tactics, marketing tactics to drive awareness and engagement. So things as simple as faxes, emails, rep-delivered tear sheets and leave-behinds, even language on a brand.com to kind of help guide to your digital hub, and EMR banner ads. So when the provider's in their system at the point of writing that script, they have reminders showing up for them, really kind of help to complement the messaging that the field team is delivering. Another important piece to this as well is that pharma incentives are aligned to driving covered dispenses. You know, you want to make sure that the program is incentivizing the reps to really be using the digital hub as a channel. Otherwise, you're going to continue to kind of struggle with those gross to net ideas, right? The whole idea with this digital hub is to give patients an opportunity to get dispensed the script that was written by their physician, and to also have an opportunity for a prior authorization to be submitted on their behalf to hopefully get more patients filling on those covered claims, which is key. And the final piece here, kind of one of my favorite pieces actually, is this idea of actionable insights. So being able to leverage data at the territory and prescriber level is really going to help the sales team focus on where they can move the needle the most. And what we like to do is kind of focus on 4 key success factors to evaluate program health. So if you think of things like a funnel, you're going to start at the top with your NRX. So NRX, how many scripts are being driven? So really that HCP adoption piece. Then we like to move a layer down and think about that patient enrollment rate. So how many patients are adopting the idea of this digital hub? Then you kind of move further down the funnel to PA submissions. Are the HCPs doing the work to get that PA submission on behalf of their patients? And finally, looking at PA outcomes just to see what kind of response we're receiving from a payer. So the nice thing is regularly reviewing these key success factors really allows pharma to kind of identify trends and focus where it matters most to drive change. So it gives them an opportunity to think about, where are things getting stuck? Like, what are areas of opportunity? Which HCPs do we need to engage with to change behavior? So examples of that could even be, hey, where am I seeing high NRX but low enrollment? Maybe that's an opportunity to talk to my provider about setting expectations with patients about the importance of enrollment. Or where do I have high enrollment but a low PA submission rate? That's an opportunity to continue to message the importance of that prior authorization. Or even a high submission rate but a low approval rate. A possibility to look into kind of payer and formulary trends that could be factors in any given area. So a lot to unpack here, but again, it's a good place to start in terms of kind of what does good look like in terms of field and HCP enablement.
And before we move on, Nicole, I have
Yeah.
a question from William here, which would be great to get your perspective on. And that is, can you be a digital hub without being a non-dispensing pharmacy? And can you submit PA forms directly to the payer or PBM with patient permission?
Holy smokes, that's a fantastic question. Thank you so much for offering that up to us. Hit me with it one more time, Mira. I want to make sure I'm taking it.
Okay, there's two parts.
Yep.
First part, can you be a digital hub without being a non-dispensing pharmacy?
I think the answer to that is yes. And Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong.
So there are a lot of advantages to being a non-dispensing pharmacy from a digital hub perspective. So a few of those are, as a non-dispensing pharmacy, PhilRx, for example, can receive that script and do all of the work for it. So we are a covered entity and can work directly on that script on behalf of the patient. And then we can use our network of pharmacies in order to ensure that we have the most possible coverage in order to get that script paid for by the insurance companies. So we have, 98% of all plans within our pharmacy network. If we were not a non-dispensing pharmacy, a lot of those things that we just talked about and kind of the nuances of that become very, very difficult. Whether that is, as another type of entity or as a dispensing pharmacy, it becomes very challenging to do a lot of that work.
Yeah, we actually just wrote a great blog post on that, so I can link that in the chat if that would be helpful to take a look at as a takeaway. Part two of the question was, can you submit PA forms directly to the payer or PBM with patient permission?
Typically, the way that we process prior authorizations is to complete as many inputs as we are able to, but it's really ultimately up to the provider to go ahead and review that prior authorization, include any information that is missing, and submit to the payer for a determination.
Yeah, there is such thing as a pharmacy submitted prior authorization. They have a much lower approval rate and they tend to be a lot less accurate. And so in order to maximize that likelihood of approval and just to make sure that we are 100% compliant, we do have the HCPs make that final submission.
Another question here from Kevin, who asks, do you use your own PA processing platform or do you use something like Cover My Meds?
Yep. We leverage Cover My Meds for prior authorization. So it's something that HCPs are very familiar with. It's within workflow.
Yep. And a follow-up to that is, how are you able to keep track of whether an HCP completes a PA?
Yep, so we are always pinging back and checking the status of that prior authorization.
Great. All right, that's questions for now.
Thanks, Mira. Catherine, we could go ahead and move to the next slide. Thank you. So the next piece is patient education. With this stat, 61% of patients do not understand the value of patient support services, and 55% want to receive this information from their provider. So again, what we've seen is just a lack of awareness is going to be a major contributor to poor hub enrollment. So the importance of educating patients on how to enroll and how that process works and why it's beneficial to them is incredibly crucial. So thinking about the field team, they're going to be instrumental in driving scripts to the digital hub and also ensuring that HCPs are setting expectations with patients on the role that they're going to play in the process. So education is paramount here. The rep has sold the HCP on the benefits of the drug. Now we have to make sure that the provider is really setting expectations with the patient on the benefits to them to continue through this digital hub. So in terms of education, we found things as simple as tear sheets that the HCP can give a patient as being incredibly helpful in kind of supporting those conversations that are happening within the office. Brand.com messaging to drive awareness can be incredibly powerful. And, hub enrollment really means the script dispensed is the script that's written by the HCP. So the lack of switching that could occur at a retail pharmacy is kind of moved away in this digital hub setting. So the patient can feel confident that my doctor wrote this drug. This is what I'm going to get at the end of the day. And knowing too that PA is going to unlock more covered dispenses for the patient population, which will hopefully kind of improve that gross to net by shifting the burden from pharma to the payer, can be really compelling for pharma. So again, tracking hub enrollment to measure the effectiveness of patient education at the territory and HCP level is going to be really critical with these programs. Another piece too here, when we're thinking about setting up a digital hub for success, it's that cost component. So being able to offer a differentiated copay that's going to enable the patient to get their prescription filled at the lowest out-of-pocket cost by enrolling in the hub is a really powerful piece. And it gives providers an even stronger reason why to kind of support the patient and support the adherence that they're going to see, hopefully through this digital hub channel. Catherine, I don't know if you have anything else you want to share here in terms of patient education, but it really is kind of a linchpin in the process.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical, and it is an opportunity to really form that, deeper partnership with practices in order to ensure that, patients have what they need to be successful.
Yeah.
Great.
So the final piece we wanted to cover off on is that payer response. And with 79% of medical practices reporting that PA requirements increased between 2021 and 2022, what this really says is that PAs are just going to be part of the workflow moving forward. So when it comes to prior authorization, we really feel like it's a more is more approach in terms of the amount of information that's being given. So that script quality piece is going to be really crucial. And what that means is just making sure that all patient and provider information received when that script hits the digital hub is accurate. Even taking it a step further and including key information like an ICD-10 code, tried and failed drugs, along with dates that those tried and failed occurred, and chart notes. So a robust PA can be created for the payer review and determination. And again, using data to monitor which HCPs and territories could benefit from an update on PA requirements that could potentially eliminate some of that back and forth and result in faster determinations is going to be really, really crucial. So I think another piece of that is sort of those coverage requirements. So providing regular updates to pharma on that PA criteria can be helpful. It's really just giving them a little bit more information on how payers are reacting and what they could potentially do to help with some of those PAs that are denied for administrative errors. There's always going to be a subset of the population that might not be clinically appropriate for a therapy, but it's really those admin error situations where it's low-hanging fruit. And sometimes it's just conversations with the provider about the types of information that would be most helpful in order to give that prior authorization a better shot at a positive determination. That's really helpful. So again, with digital hubs, they could kind of help support that PA burden and make sure that those PAs have the best shot of getting submitted and getting a determination from the payer.
We have a question here, Nicole, from Vladimir, who asks, how does a digital hub receive the RX with PA needs electronically if the hub does not have an NPI number?
We have a system where the provider is going to go ahead and send the script to us via their EMR. And I believe that's a piece of NPI that's going to pull through within the EMR when the information hits our system. Catherine, I don't know if there's anything more to share here about the tech side.
So for PhilRx specifically, we
Mhm.
are a non-dispensing pharmacy, so we do have that NPI, and so they're able to prescribe directly to us via the EMR or eFax or over the phone.
Mhm.
Right. We also had an anonymous question here. Can we dive into a little bit more about what we mean when we say digital hub? How does this differ from a traditional hub service? And does digital hub mean hub light?
Yeah, I think that, digital hub and hub light can be used pretty synonymously. So when we talk about a digital hub, we are referring to a hub that has the underpinnings as technology as opposed to a huge staff of FTEs in a call center. So one that is based on technology as opposed to call centers. And typically the costs of those are much lower because you let technology succeed first and then use people where they're really necessary as opposed to using people first.
Right. All right, Nicole, back to you.
Thanks, Mira. So moving on to the next slide, we wanted to share a little bit of a case study before we wrap things up on our end. And this one was specific to an ophthalmology brand that we partnered with that was really kind of struggling to convert their formulary placement to covered dispenses and driving optimal patient adherence. So when they partnered with Phil, we put a program in place that really led field team enablement training. I think these are going to be a lot of things that we've kind of discussed previously, but put in place some training for the field so they feel confident in the message that they're delivering in terms of the digital hub. Field incentives were established ahead of the launch of the hub to make sure that the field reps have a strong reason why sending to this channel for dispense is important. And then finally, leveraging that territory data to really optimize the program and find those places where it makes sense to focus attention with some really targeted, actionable insights to share with the providers and their team.
Doesn't want to switch. There we go.
So again, what we're looking at here is just the outcomes. So 30% of high volume brand NRX share in less than 2 months. So you'll see with that partnership with Phil, NRX had increased week over week, and we had some really compelling program outcomes. So enrollment rates of new patients of 80%, 85% of PAs successfully sent to plan, 3.6 times refill adherence versus retail, and 60% TRX covered through PhilRx. So again, just really impressive results with this type of approach to a digital hub. Catherine, anything here you want to?
So I think that, these were transformative brand outcomes from a financial perspective, and you can see, with that higher refill adherence as well as higher coverage that they were able to see. What this actually meant is that, they were so excited about those financial results that they started pulling other brands onto the platform at an accelerated rate. And so what was most exciting, I think, for this client is that they were able to get a lot more patients access to the therapy that than they had been able to historically. And they were able to get those patients access at the lowest possible out-of-pocket price because they were more covered dispenses. And with that, they were seeing, a lot better brand financials as well. So it was a really fun win-win-win situation where HCPs were getting more of their patients on therapy, which made them more excited about the brand. Even though they were seeing, great outcomes, it had been a challenge to actually get patients onto therapy. So HCPs were really excited. Patients were excited because they were getting the lowest out-of-pocket price. And the brand was seeing the outcomes financially.
Yeah, that refill piece is huge there, right? A patient that might have filled once is now filling over and over again because that lower out of pocket really unlocks the ability for them to continue with therapy and take advantage of those results.
That's great. We have a couple technical questions here. So
Okay.
first being, does your hub use AI for benefits verification, and what % of those come out as accurate?
So we are doing a EBV or a BV depending on the payer and the situation. It is not AI. We actually do run the benefit verification. But happy to follow up with more on exactly how all of these things work. I know Mira's going to ask a question at the end if anyone is interested in learning more, and we can definitely dig into more detail at that time.
Great. Another one here is, with the change of law in C2 transfers, can you handle C2s?
We are not currently doing any controlled substances. With that change in laws, we are looking at putting it on the roadmap. I don't think it will be in 2024, but definitely something that we're considering for 2025.
Great.
Great. All right.
So as Catherine mentioned, I'm going to run a quick poll here. If you'd like to learn more about Phil, please let us know. And we can follow up with a conversation and dive into those, more tactical, specific questions about the product. We'd love to answer your questions. So I'll leave that open for a moment. In the meantime, on the right, you'll see a playbook. This is a really great complement to this webinar. It captures kind of more tactical strategies for, the how behind how you would actually start to implement these strategies. So highly recommend giving that a read. I'm going to end the poll here. Thank you for everyone for responding. And if there are any remaining questions, this is a great time to put them in the chat. We've already had great questions throughout, but we'll give everyone just a couple more minutes if they do have questions. Please take a moment if there's anything else you'd like to ask Nicole or Catherine while we're on the call live. Okay, nothing else. So I think we can go ahead and close and give everyone some time back, which I'm sure is always appreciated. Thank you so much, Catherine and Nicole, for sharing your great insights. Everyone, thank you for being here with us today. We've really loved having you.